So next is our fascinating fireside chat on innovation and arbitration in crypto. Speaking, we have Maxim Kon, Nino, Sievi, and Martin Liebi of gunnercooke, Dallafior, and Sievi and Consultiks, respectively.
Hello, everybody. Yes, you can hear me. My name is Maxim Kon. I am one of the board members of the Crypto Valley Association, and today I have the great pleasure to introduce to you Nino and Martin, who are our big hope for today's exciting topic, how to stay out of the courtroom. I assume all of you would like to stay out of courtroom, and me too. And for me, it was a big discovery that in crypto, we have a possibility to solve disputes without going to the courtroom. But we need to involve some lawyers in some situations. But the whole situation started with Martin raising the idea of standardizing this approach. And therefore, I would give the word to Martin to first introduce himself quickly and then give us a little run-through of the initiative.
Yeah, hello, I'm Martin. So I'm a crypto lawyer. I'm also a judge. So that's a little bit la déformation professionnelle, probably, who is kind of behind this vision. So my vision would be, and it's a little bit a strange vision, I know. This is a lawyer vision for the Crypto Valley. But every very successful ecosystem or industry, like, for example, Geneva, the commodities traders, or Zurich as an economic system, has its own specialized courts. Because our industry is very technical. There's a lot of technicalities involved, special know-how, and we need to have our own courts. Why do we need that? Because it is very important for investors, for companies coming to Switzerland, to our best ecosystem for crypto in the world, having the feeling, not just having super players when you go into the system, but also if something happens, a way to efficiently, fairly, and hopefully also very quickly solve disputes. Yeah? And the idea would be to create the crypto arbitration court for the Crypto Valley. And basically, we are initiating this. We have founded a working group in the Crypto Valley Association. We only have 6 members so far, so you're kindly invited to join. But then we also have our super technical experts like Nino, who are really arbitrator. I'm a corporate lawyer, I admit it. I'm a banking finance lawyer, digital assets lawyer. But Nino basically is an arbitration lawyer.
Yeah, Nino, would you quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what is arbitration and what an arbitration court is?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Nino. I'm a partner with the disputes law firm at Dallafior in Zurich. And I only do the nasty stuff of business. I only do disputes and crisis management. So talking about the déformation professionnelle, I'm the worst here. And since 2019, I've been involved in disputes in the crypto sector. So this has been a bit of my life. Quick question here. How many people are lawyers here? Okay, fair amount. Oh. The other people, how many of you hate lawyers? Good, that's my crowd. Excellent. Okay, so I'm a lawyer, but I promise not to be too legal here. The basic premise here is where you have business, there are disputes. I know nobody likes it. Whenever I'm at crypto conference and tell people I do dispute resolution in crypto, they always look at me, but we don't have any disputes. Well, the last 6 years have proven the opposite. And if you just look, there are a couple of disputes in the public domain that I can talk about. There was a major crypto exchange, maybe Binance. They had a complete crash. The systems didn't work for a couple hours. People weren't able to close their accounts, weren't able to make any trades. Big surprise afterwards, you had tons of lawsuits. There was a DeFi project that promised liquidity rewards. And turns out it was one big scam, and afterwards the investors, of course, wanted all their money back. Another case, you had a VC that pulled out of a token deal claiming that there were misrepresentations. All these disputes, they need to be resolved in the end. And now when you have a dispute that you cannot find a solution with the other side, you have 2 options. 1, you go to court. 2, you go to arbitration. If you go to court, bad choice. It's slow, you might have to explain to a 64-year-old judge what staking is, and take my word for it, this is not fun and it doesn't work. Other problem, if it's, for example, here in Zug, it will be in German. My experience of crypto projects, not everybody speaks German. Now, what is behind door number 2? What's the other option? Arbitration. Arbitration is a private dispute resolution mechanism where parties agree to have the dispute resolved by neutral arbitrators. Now, why is this so much better? Couple of points, stay with me. I've really thought this through during the last 6 years. Speed and efficiency. If you go to court, it takes you at least 2 years and then the appeal starts. Arbitration, you can be done within 6 months. Expertise, as I told you about the 64-year-old judge, bad idea. If you go to arbitration, you can pick your arbitrators. You can make sure that they don't even need to be lawyers. But if you want to have a lawyer, you take a lawyer who knows what staking is. Language of the proceedings will be English, much better. It's very cross-border friendly because at the end of arbitration, you will have a binding decision that is enforceable in about 170 countries. And also very nice, it's digital ready. Today, most arbitrations can be conducted fully remote. Everything is filed online. You have the hearing via Zoom, and it's done. So, I mean, this hasn't been specifically made for crypto, but it works extremely well for crypto cases. So all these features should show you that arbitration is by far the better option than going to court.
Nino, you just solved the whole thing. So arbitration, that's it. We are done with the
yeah, you're
panel
welcome.
Today.
I'll send you the bill tomorrow.
Of course, lawyers, right? Where are the limitations? So
Yes.
Why haven't all the crypto companies using arbitration so far? Well, what's the catch?
Well, I mean, the thing is you cannot choose arbitration when there's a dispute. You need to choose arbitration right when you sign the contract. There needs to be a clause in the contract that says, I know we all love each other, but if this deal ever goes sour, we will not go to state courts, we will go to arbitration. So this pretty little clause needs to be in there, and quite frankly, the level of drafting is still not ideal in the crypto industry. So I think this is one aspect. The other aspect is the system is okay, but it's not perfect yet for arbitration. I think there are certain tweaks that we need to work on. I think still speed, 6 months. If you tell this to any average business, they'll say, oh, 6 months is really fast. 6 months in the crypto world, still an eternity. So we need to find ways to have ultra-expedited proceedings. Very often you have group claims, don't really work well with the usual arbitration rules. The usual arbitration rules don't work for DAOs, or generally they're not very good in dealing with the pseudonymity that you have in crypto. Arbitrator selection needs to improve. I mean, there are arbitrators out there that are really capable in crypto and in arbitration, but we don't have this fixed pool of potential nominees. I think there are other aspects that you can work on, but I think this is what Martin said. This is the project to really find this arbitration 2.0 that is ready for the crypto world.
Thank you. Well, as said, we have a working group in the Sievi, and maybe Martin, can you give us a little glance into what the working group has been working as a group?
Yeah, so the working group has been established very recently, and our purpose is really to follow through with this vision, because we want to ensure that we are staying the #1 ecosystem for digital assets in the world. And basically, we have partnered up with the Zurich Attorney Association, so the practice group on crypto arbitration. And as a next step, what we will be doing is basically creating specific arbitration rules. Because as Nino has pointed out, there's a lot of specificities, like typically lawyers work with a lot of documents. In crypto, you don't have documents, you have data, yeah? And everything is decentralized, and so everything has to go quick, and so there's a lot of specificities which are not really what is currently in an arbitration rule set one-to-one applicable to our industry. And that's going to be the next challenging steps, to really have world-class arbitration rules, and not just something done in a lab, but it's backed by the best association in this country, but probably globally for the industry. But importantly, this is not just an initiative driven by Crypto Valley Association. This is backed by the Swiss government. This will also be backed by other industry associations and participants. So once we have the first draft of these rules, we will then basically consult with the other associations in Switzerland to really ensure that everybody is on board with us. And then we will create the first bench of lawyers. And then our work starts, Max. We have to go to all industry participants, the foundations, the intermediaries, everybody, to really ensure that they put these arbitration clauses into their contracts. And then hopefully there is no claim. Then I think everything is working well. But maybe in a few years then thereafter, there might be the first arbitration court hearings, maybe in this room, who knows, in Zug being held. And obviously, ideally would be that not just Swiss players take over these rules, but it would be an international thing. So even players in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in the US, they would choose the Crypto Valley Arbitration Court as their court of choice to settle all their disputes. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the road plan, and hopefully we can do everything by the end of this year.
Thank you. Nino, can you give us a run through how an arbitration would be solved in a traditional world, and then we try to see the parallels on how we foresee the future of a crypto dispute being solved once we are done with our work?
Sure, we can try. I mean, if an arbitration starts, usually there's an issue that starts, people start hating each other, and then one party says this is enough. They file a request for arbitration to an arbitration center. Then you wait for 30 days, and the other side needs to file an answer. Then it takes a couple of weeks to find a tribunal. Both parties get to choose one arbitrator, and the two arbitrators, they agree then on a president for the arbitration. And then you exchange statement of claim, statement of defense, large written documents. Then you have an oral hearing, and then usually you get a decision, ideally everything within 6 months. And I think the general structure works pretty well for arbitration. And also it's very flexible. I mean, you can have more written statements, less written statements, you can have a short hearing, you can have a long hearing. It's really in the hands of the parties. And I think where we need to tweak is, for example, how do you serve the request of arbitration on the respondent party? Because certain rules say you need to do it by post. Not ideal. You want to do it by email. What do you do if you don't even have an email? Should you be able to airdrop it into a wallet? These are all options that are on the table and that we need to think about when we draft the rules.
That's a great point. Like, if I have a dispute with someone on the internet that I only know by an NFT and a wallet address, that's kind of difficult to get this person to invite to a courtroom into Switzerland, right?
If you want to do it in court in Switzerland, they don't only want you to give him the name, they want to have a current address that they can send postal mail to. So, and I mean, don't get me started when you have a DAO involved. I mean, it doesn't work at all in the court system, and even in the arbitration system, it doesn't work particularly well, because I mean, if it's a DAO without a rep entity, it's just a question, what is it legally? Is it a simple partnership? Is it an association? Hundreds of questions.
Martin, how can we solve those things with our idea? Or can we?
Sure. I mean, look, I think that's exactly where we come in and where we can add real value to the existing system. You know, it's being a judge myself, I know how the system works, and it works well in some cantons or at some courts, and not everywhere, also not in Switzerland. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly the points we have. That we're combining the forces, like the technical arbitration expertise, the IT expertise, the understanding of the different forms of how crypto is being sold, how crypto is being decided, and so forth. And this is a task. It's a challenging task, yeah. But we will be able to solve it. And we have the right expertise also here in Zug and Switzerland anyhow to come up with these rules. The first draft probably not gonna, or the first final version is probably not gonna be perfect. It's a 0.1 version, but we can always change, you know. And as we go along with the experience, we will have to adjust everything, I guess, you know, the rules, maybe also the bench of the lawyers and so forth. But yeah, so it's going to be possible, I have no doubt, but it's also challenging, I think, for everybody involved. But that's why I have partnered up with the Association of the Crypto Arbitration Lawyers in Zurich.
I think what will be important is that we get feedback from the community and from the industry. Because, I mean, in Zurich, we're about 6 or 7 lawyers who've done these kinds of disputes regularly. So we've seen what we've seen. But the arbitrations are not public, they're confidential. So there might be a massive black hole for us that we haven't seen, certain issues that we haven't encountered. And this is why I think that the group is very important, that the group needs to do an open call for input, where people can say, we had a dispute, this was the big issue, find a solution now. Because otherwise, it will be a limited work product that we can provide.
I think this is a very important point, that the Crypto Valley Association is here to, well, let the world know that there is a solution for disputes, and create, first of all, awareness that you can reach out to us and we can guide you in the right direction. But also we need to understand what kind of disputes are out there that we have not yet thought about. And before we're starting to write rules and the guidance, we need to really get a full idea of what have we missed. And yes, please.
I'm missing a little technology in the solution. So you're really relying heavily on, as you say, 6 lawyers and their limited experience, when there's probably a world of case law out there that could be fed into a LLM and processed out. And probably you're missing the whole blockchain crypto technology in the solution you're providing. It's relying only on human beings.
I wanted to keep that for the end. We do not. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are still a Crypto Valley Association. AI will play an important role, I think. For sure, it will change everything. But one really important aspect here is that we want to help, the members of the association solve their disputes, and the disputes that the traditional world, even with a more adjusted set of rules, will be applicable to, are still kind of high-level corporate-grade situations where we're talking about hundreds of thousands or even millions that have to be disputed. But the idea for the community is also to be able to solve lower-value disputes as well. So, yeah, and
I think
yeah.
there are solutions out there who heavily involve technology, but the problem is they always include a voluntary component. And when you have a really contentious situation, I can tell you it's very difficult to get 2 sides to agree on anything. And this is the entire point of dispute resolution within the state court system, for example. It's to decide who gets access to the physical power that the state holds. Because if Martin owes me money, I'm not allowed to go to his door, punch him and tell him, give me the money now. What I am allowed is go to a court, an arbitration, tell them, you need to decide that he owes me money. Say, yes, Nino, Martin owes you money. And then I can go with this to the state authority, state enforcement authority, and then they go to Martin, ring on the door and tell him, pay up. And I think this is what dispute resolution comes down to. Access to this power. And there's I personally have not found a way that technology can replace the entire process. What technology can do is enhance certain parts. I mean, when you say feed the entire case history into an LLM, this is something the lawyers can do, the arbitrators can do. This is something that the entire arbitration community is working on. Next week, I'm in The Hague giving a talk about ethics and AI and arbitration, how we can cope with that. So there is work being done, but this is not crypto specific, this is really arbitration specific, and people are very much aware that the system isn't perfect and that it needs to become more efficient.
Maybe my 2 cents on this, and I think you're touching on a very important point. But I think this is a step approach, because we first have to have a quality product which works in the real life with human beings, you know. And once we have that established, then we can maybe bring in AI, bring in technology. And there is also this high volume cases and the low volume cases. And we are actually thinking, and you would probably say that at the end, there is ideas about for low volume cases that we use some form of an AI tool to do that, yeah. But still, even if you look at ChatGPT and all of that, when I use this in my daily work and I ask stuff, you know, sometimes it's really good, the results, but sometimes it's horribly wrong. You know, they just make up cases. They just make up some kind of literature or something, you know. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's a really good result, sometimes it's really bad. But it shows the credibility and the quality is not yet there. This might come in the future. But if you really want to establish this as a high-quality go-to place where people really have trust in it, the first step will be a human solution. And as you have rightly pointed out, law is not just like coding something. There's a lot of subjective aspects to it. And this is a very ideological discussion, probably. How, to what extent the machine or an IT, AI-driven system can really kind of reflect that subjective decision in the individual situation. Do you feel like empathy for a situation? Do you feel like, okay, this is a wrong situation for this and that reason? But these are all emotional grounds, which we as human beings would say, okay, these are real reasons why in a certain situation something has to judge that way. And AI cannot really consider that, at least for now. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is a very good point, and thank you for bringing this up. That's the plan in the long run. Yeah.
Yes, hi. Are you also collaborating with other arbitration centers?
No.
Not yet, but we're looking at it.
One of the things, and also to mention the technology, so we are really looking into partnering up with an already existing solution that is blockchain-based, smart contract-based, that was created to solve disputes fast and efficient and enable solving disputes also for low volume, low value amounts. However, we need to make sure that if we, as the Crypto Valley Association, partner up with something like that, that it's chain agnostic. We need to support many different ecosystems, and we want that. We want to enable the possibility so that a Ethereum and a Cardano and a Solana foundation can agree to point in our direction for solving disputes. So it's not only about the institutions playing a role, but also the individuals using different blockchains that can agree upfront before, as Nino said, before a dispute happened, that they will have a direction where to go to when something happens. And then if they come to us, we can say, well, that dispute, that definitely belongs into a bigger arbitration courtroom, or it can be solved on-chain, or don't solve that dispute, that will lead nowhere. But at least we want to really ensure that there is a point of contact and people understand there is help. Yes, please.
So beyond using technology to, let's say, make a decision, what about using technology to facilitate the process? So like what Nino said, he can't punch Martin to make him pay him money, but if they can agree beforehand, I mean, why you have the laws on the enforcement side, right? They force somebody to pay. What about
Yeah, so essentially you have an automatic enforcement, but I mean this, economically speaking, this comes down to an escrow solution. The problem is, if I go to Martin's door and tell him, I think you owe me money, please place the money in escrow or in a smart contract or whatever, what do I do if he says, I don't think so, no. And this is what I said, I mean, with technological solutions right now, there's a voluntary element. And sometimes it works if you have reasonable people who say, yes, we have a dispute, we need to find a solution, let's do that. Perfectly fine. I've been doing this job now for 12 years. Happens very rarely, unfortunately. This is really, when it comes to a point that lawyers and lawyers talk, this is war. Nobody will give the other side an inch. And you need to be prepared for those situations, because this is what the enforcement system comes down to.
However, what you have described is 98% the solution that we are talking about, but it needs exactly that pre-agreement in order to use the software. There are cases where that solution was already used, and sorry, I'm not naming the solution by name yet, as we have not signed anything, but we are in a very advanced discussion. So there have been cases where this blockchain smart contract solution have been used, where only one side describes the whole situation, provides all the documents, and has as a global audience of vetted experts in the industry who are then in a tokenized incentive are motivated to provide their opinion on how this solution can be solved, and if the solution will be solved in their favor, they get certain tokens back. And with that, an individual can, for a very low amount of digital assets, can get a solid opinion whether their position may be right, and that can then be escalated or be taken to an arbitration room or to a courtroom or to other means. So this may be a foundational starting point where we, the crypto native people, can begin with before we go to the bigger structures. I'm seeing we're running out of time. Do we have time for one more question? Yes?
We are using hybrid dispute solution, like we implement our marketplace. So when you implement smart contract, you can give an admin right to us. So both sides can get us involved if there is a dispute. Then we can decide. So we call this hybrid smart contract plus human dispute solution. So we already implemented it.
I like that approach, and I think that this is very, very good. We've heard of solutions as well where you can use one standard of solving a dispute, and if the bigger party loses, the bigger party has to accept that situation. If the individual loses, the individual can raise or go to a next level court. But I think, again, the key message of today's session is that we are working on finding ways for different disputes, and we need your input, we need your ideas and your input into thinking about all the possible cases. So please join us in our working group, please submit your cases, and if you have a dispute, reach out to us and we will find you the right people to solve your dispute. Anything to add?
Thank you very much.